Children, for every Mishnah you learn by heart, come take $1. There was one boy there, Penny Shapiro. He memorized 50 Mishnayos. He got $50. We have to invest in the future generation, because from the little goats, because the little sheep can produce the big rams. And that's why the Beis Yosef says there's no greater service to Hashem than to teach the children Torah. These are the ones that will one day be teachers in Klal Yisrael. Yesterday there was a celebration. 1,200 children gathered at the palace on McDonald to celebrate learning of the Torah, learning Mishnayos. So everyone should feel connected to Klal Yisrael, and we have to try to connect ourselves to the leaders. There's many leaders, Baruch Hashem. Find the one that you feel you could grow with, and that's our job, to connect to the Rosh Hashiva, the Rebbe, to find out a lesson that he wants us to know. There was once a girl who had a very good voice. She had such a sweet voice that even the Goyim wanted to pay her a lot of money to sing in their concerts, their orchestras, their symphonies. And she was tempted, because that's a lot of money and I could become famous. But at that time the Kapushnitzer Rebbe was in town. And the Kapushnitzer Rebbe told her, you want fame? You want honor? I promise you, if you don't sing for the Goyim, and you keep yourself tznius, just stay with the Beis Yaakov, Hashem will give you a son one day who will be famous and will light up the world. And she was zeicha to have Rabbi Vosner, her son, this great leader, this great posek, who even in the days of the Chazon Ish, he was respected as an authority who knew the Torah well. He knew the Gemara. He knew to paskin shailas. Now I want to tell you a beautiful quote that is actually hanging up in my house. This quote is hanging up by the sink. It's a quote from the Vizhnitzer Rebbe. He says, each tzaddik knows he found a way to get closer to Hashem. But he also knows that the other tzaddik also found a way which is good. Which means you don't have to be identical to someone else. You could be original and creative how you serve Hashem. There are many ways. Shivim panim l'Torah. I remember one time I went to visit the Skvir Rebbe, and I couldn't help to brag. And I said, Rabbi, look, I wrote a book. I wanted a bracha. You know what he did to me? I'll never forget. He took out $100 Menashe. That's a lot of money, right? $100. Yeah. And I couldn't believe it. He handed it to me. I wasn't sure if he was buying a book and he wanted change. And then he says, no. Anyone who spent so many hours writing Torah deserves a little motivation. And he handed me a $100 bill I saved. Kinderlach. Boys and girls, we have to appreciate even those that aren't such big Gedolim yet, but they're trying to teach, they're trying to spread Torah. Do you know when the Baba of a Rebbe passed away, there was a black man, a colored man, an African American who came to the Levaya. Someone said, did you know the Baba of a Rebbe? He said, yeah, he was my rabbi. They said, he was your rabbi? That's right. I've got a picture of him in my wallet. And he pulled out his wallet, he showed a picture of the Baba of a Rebbe. So someone said, did you work in his yeshiva? He says, no way. I was his painter. And let me tell you something. This rabbi, he was a real gentleman. He was a prince. One time I went to paint his house, right? I get there early in the morning. I figured I would sand down the paint, the wall, and I put on one coat, and then I go out to McDonald's and eat breakfast. You know what that rabbi did? He said, you can't work yet if you didn't eat. Please, I'll make you breakfast. Boy, that was the best breakfast. The rabbi gave me lox, and he gave me cheese, and he gave me eggs, and gave me peanut butter, gave me everything I wanted. And then he tells me, don't paint a perfect job. I said, why shouldn't I paint a perfect job? I have a reputation. He said, because God's house is not complete. So my house does not have to be perfect neither. I said, Rabbi, I'll do my best. Then about a month later, a different rabbi invited me. And he don't give me no breakfast. And then he tells me, you better paint the perfect job. So you know what I told him? I said, I ain't going to paint no perfect job. He says, why aren't you going to paint the perfect job? I said, your God doesn't have a house and you're worried about your house? You should have seen that rabbi. He almost fell down on the floor. A Rebbe is able to be mashpia even on a non-Jew. They say when Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky passed away, even a nun cried. They said, what connection do you have to a rabbi? She says, he was the rabbi that always gave me a blessing every day. A warm good morning, have a nice day. He cared for me. Rabbi Vadi Yosef was a great scholar who passed away last year. Do you know, when he was young, his father needed help with Parnasa. And he went to help him in the store. His Rebbe, Rabbi Atiyah, came to the store and told his father, I'll work for you. Send this boy to yeshiva. He has a great future, a promising potential. Sometimes the rabbi has to go, make sure he doesn't lose students who run into business. Thanks to him, the Sephardic world has such a great luminary. Rabbi Yashiv, do you know he often did not go to invitations of his own family, like a grandson's bris? They said, Rebbe, Zaidi, how could you not come? Everyone wants to see you. He said, I have to learn Torah. And if I go, it's going to be hours traveling. I won't be able to concentrate in the car. And Hashem would rather I learn Torah. Wow. Gedolim, they are really giants. Their love for Torah is unparalleled. Their Kedusha, how they live lives of sanctity, is something that is awesome. How they serve Hashem with Tivekis, with such closeness, is something we have to strive to emulate. The Moetzes Gedolei HaTorah is a group of rabbis from different yeshivas who get together frequently to discuss problems that face the Jewish people. I'll give you an example. Someone wanted to make a kosher light, that you're allowed to turn on a certain type of switch on Shabbos. They had to make emergency meeting, how to publicize that, no, this is a breach in the laws. And the Gedolim, when they get together, they can make takanos that we all can follow. So in every generation, even if it's hard, try to listen to the rabbis of your generation. What are they saying? What are they warning about? I'll give you an example. Rabbi Shor said not to use Twitter and Facebook. He said all it does is introduce a person to non-Jewish beliefs. So sometimes it's hard, but I want to. We have social media. But sometimes you have to say, you know what? These rabbis, they know better. They study the Torah. And we have to try to listen to their instructions. Do you know Rabbi Diskind is a Rebbe in Torah's Emes Kamenetz? Do you know every year he goes on a trip to visit rabbis? But guess how you buy a ticket? This is a funny ticket. You can't buy a ticket with money. Only if you don't watch television for like 2 weeks or 2 months, then he takes you on a special trip to see rabbis. He says, you didn't use your eyes for seeing the Goyish world? Then come, let me show you the world of the Gadol. I went with him on such trips. I better not watch television. I want to go back with him. Okay, now let's learn about more Gedolim, even of those who lived hundreds of years ago. Take the Chassam Sofer from the 1850s. Do you know he davened very long? So one day someone had a little chutzpah. He said, Rebbe, isn't it bittul Torah to daven so long? I would never ask a Rebbe that. I think you have to have a lot of craziness to challenge your Rebbe that you daven too long. So you know what the Rebbe said patiently? He said, the Gemara says if you daven long, Hashem will make you live longer. So then when I live longer, I'll have time to daven and learn Torah, and I won't be wasting time. I'll learn Torah then. Wow. One time the Chassam Sofer said, I wish I had a sweeter voice. Then I could sing to Hashem more. He even said I would even give up half of my Chidushei Torah if I had a better voice to sing to Hashem. Now, I find that hard to believe that he said that, but I think he meant to say that sometimes you could serve Hashem with your beautiful voice. My father used to always sing to Hashem, even when he was driving the car. We didn't even need a tape recorder in the car. My father, when he was driving the car with the family, he would be singing Hallel. I think I should start doing that too. Once in a while I sing in the car. Just make sure you don't laugh at me when you hear me singing. Now, the Steipler was a great rabbi from the previous generation. Do you know he didn't sleep every night? He slept every other night. Why? He would stay up the night learning Torah. But he instructed us mortals that we have to sleep 8 hours a night. At his level, he couldn't sleep. His thirst for Torah would not let him sleep. But he told us, you're regular, ordinary people, you sleep 8 hours a night. Wow. Do you know when he met his wife and they went on a date, he fell asleep on the date? So she thought, this man is not for me. Then the Chazon Ish told his sister, you don't realize he fell asleep because he was learning Torah the whole way on the train ride, and he didn't sit down because he was worried there's shatnez in the seat. So when you learn the whole trip, he was exhausted. But it had nothing personal to you. And they eventually got married. They had son, Reb Chaim Kanievsky, who today is like the Rebbe Kiva Eger of the generation. And big Baal Midos. And he has a good sense of humor too. One time someone came to Reb Chaim Kanievsky. And he says, Rebbe, I'm 50 years old. Can you give me a bracha? I should have a child. He says, well, you're getting older. I'll give you a bracha, but you have to do me something. He said, what? He says, I want you to either write a new Sefer Torah for a shul that doesn't have one, for a minyan, or build a new shul, a basic Knesset, or support a kollel. In the zchus of the Torah, you will have a baby. So the guy was wealthy, and he did all three. The next year he had triplets. I guess one for writing the Torah, one for supporting a kollel, and one for starting a shul. So it pays to ask advice from rabbis, you know. Now, Reb Chaim Brisker was known as the Rosh Hashiva of Rosh Hashivas. Do you know when he was 4 years old, he memorized the whole Taryag Mitzvos? Please don't ask me what I did when I was 4 years old. I might have told you about Spider-Man, but I wouldn't have told you about Taryag Mitzvahs. So they asked him, why did you memorize the whole 613 mitzvos? You know what he said? Listen to what a Gadol said. He said, well, we have to defend the king. Hashem is the king. We are his soldiers. I guess he was a young soldier, 4 years old. He said a soldier has to know the rules of the king. So if Hashem gave us 613 commandments on Har Sinai, I have to know the rules to be a good soldier. At age 4, he memorized the whole Torah. Can I tell you a funny story that shows his brain? One time he dropped a nut into a little hole, and he couldn't reach it. They say he was about 2 at the time. And he was trying to reach it. His little walnut rolled into the hole, and he couldn't reach it. You know what he did? He ran to the bucket of water, he poured the water into the hole, and then the nut floated to the top. And then he took his nut. That's pretty clever. I didn't think of that. The Brisker Rav, his son, once said, how was it that the Nazis were 300 kilometers away from Eretz Yisrael and they didn't overtake the land that they wanted to destroy? I mean, after all, they were after the Jewish people. So how was it that they didn't conquer the 500,000 Jews living in Palestine and Israel? And you know what he said? He said, I know what it was. I saw the way the Yerushalmi Jews said Amen and Amen Yeshmei Rabbah by shul so loud. Menashe, do you scream Amen Yeshmei Rabbah? So that zechus saved all the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael, that even though they had just conquered the Germans, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, part of Egypt, but they failed to get any closer, and Baruch Hashem, the British were able to overcome them. Wow. So I wouldn't have told you what zechus it was. You need a gadol sometimes to point out which zechus can save Klal Yisrael. Rabbi Scheinberg would wear his tefillin